Thank you for choosing ERIK'S for your new bike. At ERIK'S, we want to ensure that your new bike is assembled properly and safely. Before your bike was even sent to you, it was fully built by our professional assembly team, who then carefully reboxed it and sent it out to you. If for any reason you don't feel confident performing these steps, we recommend that you have your bike reassembled by a qualified local bicycle mechanic. Proper assembly only requires a few specific tools. This is a general list, but each bike may require slightly different tools. You're going to need a few metric Allen wrenches. A bike multi-tool should be able to perform all of these duties as well. Use a box cutter to open the box and remove all the packing materials, and a side cutter to snip the zip ties. Setting your bolts to the proper torque is super important, and the only way to do this is to use a torque wrench. Use a pedal wrench to wrench on those pedals. You're going to need a good bike grease, and you may need a carbon fiber paste if you have a carbon fiber frame, seat post, stem, or handlebars. If your bike has an air suspension, you're going to need a shock pump, and if there's bolt-on wheels, you'll need a 15mm wrench. A bike work stand is great to have, but you can get this accomplished without one. You're going to need a way to air up the tires, and if you've got Presta valves, but your pump doesn't fill them, you might need a Presta valve adapter. Now grab the instructions that were sent with your new bike, and let's get started on assembly. First, remove the bike from the box and place it on the ground. Carefully remove the zip ties and packing materials and insert the seat post into the frame. Be sure to use grease or carbon prep paste depending on the frame and the seat post. Now would be a good time to clamp the bike into a work stand, but if you don't have one, you can use the bike box to stabilize the bike. Attach the handlebars and snug up the bolts. You'll level the bars and torque the bolts a little bit later. If the disc brake has been removed, attach the caliper loosely to the fork. Install the front wheel and center by pulling the brake lever and holding the brake closed. Tighten up the bolts and fine-tune if necessary. If your bike uses rim brakes and the caliper has been removed, insert the threaded post into the fork with the serrated washer between the fork and the brake. Insert the long nut into the back of the fork and loosely tighten. Insert the wheel and close the quick release, then attach the cable. Center the brake and tighten the bolt to the correct torque. Now let's talk about how to get those wheels on. If your bike has a quick release, start by opening the brake caliper. For road rim brakes, flip the quick release lever up to open the brake. If your bike has disc brakes, you don't have to do anything. Take the quick release skewer out of the box and remove the nut and one of the cone-shaped springs. Insert the quick release into the hub and install the spring and the nut so that the lever is on the non-drive side of the bike. Insert the wheel into the fork and place the bike on the ground. Hold the lever parallel to the ground and tighten the nut until you feel some tension on the lever. Using the palm of your hand, push the lever up and into the fork. The lever should leave an imprint on your hand from the amount of force used. Adjust the nut until you get the correct tension on the quick release lever. If you can read close on the lever, you did it right. If your bike uses a through axle, insert the wheel into the fork and center the brake rotor between the brake pads. Insert the through axle through the fork in the hub and tighten to the correct torque. Now that the front wheel is on, go back to your handlebars to get them level and centered and set the stem plate bolts to the correct torque specification. This is usually 5 to 6 Newton meters using an X pattern. Grease the threads and install your pedals, making sure that you're installing the right pedal on the right side and the left pedal on the left side. The left pedal is reverse threaded, so remember to always tighten your pedals by turning them towards the front of the bike, regardless of the left or right side. If your bike has an air suspension fork or shock, visit the manufacturer's website for the specifics on how to set the suspension up correctly. Now take a little time to wrap things up by spinning the wheels and make sure that the brakes aren't rubbing, and squeeze the lever to be sure that you've got good stopping power. Double check to be sure that your handlebars are tight and set to the correct torque and that all of your gears are working. Set your final saddle height and set the fixing bolt to the proper torque specification. Install your reflectors and you're ready to go. Congratulations on assembling your new bike. Now let's get riding.